All right, you beautiful bastards, strap in because today we're going deep on Bryan Johnson,
Deep.
the dude who made a shit ton of cash with Braintree and Venmo,
Oh, yeah.
but decided, fuck that, I want to live forever.
Big mood.
Let's cut the crap and dive into this mad scientist world.
He's like a tech CEO who took a hard left turn into biohacking.
Yeah,
Instead of chilling on a yacht, he's trying to crack the code of immortality.
right. Like most dudes with 800 million bucks from a PayPal buyout would be popping champagne on some island.
For sure.
But this guy, he decides to go full-on cyborg.
Well, that PayPal payout from selling Braintree did give him a pretty sweet launch pad.
Yeah.
But yeah, Johnson's not your average tech bro. He founded Kernel, a company building brain-computer interfaces.
Oh, wow.
We're talking helmets that can literally read your mind.
Okay, mind-reading helmets? That's some next-level shit.
Yeah.
What's the point of that? Is he going to start controlling people like some evil supervillain?
Not quite, though. The idea is pretty wild. Kernel's working on tech that can monitor and record brain activity. Imagine being able to diagnose Alzheimer's early, or helping paralyzed people communicate just by thinking.
So it's not all evil genius stuff. There's some actual good that could come out of this.
Absolutely. The potential applications are huge.
Huge, Hal.
We're talking about revolutionizing how we treat neurological diseases and understand the brain itself.
But let's be real. This dude dumped $100 million of his own WN dollars into Kernel.
I know, right?
That's got to be about more than just curing diseases.
Wait.
What's the real end game here?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Johnson's obsessed with this idea of radical life extension.
Okay.
He wants to literally reverse aging and live forever.
Hold up. Reverse aging. Is that even possible? I mean, I'm all for looking good, but this sounds like some straight-up science fiction bullshit.
It might sound crazy, but Johnson's dead serious. He's got this whole program called Project Blueprint, where he's basically turned himself into a human guinea pig.
What?
We're talking insane diets, hardcore workout routines, and constant medical monitoring.
This guy is definitely on another level. Oh, yeah. Most people his age are worried about their dad bods, but he's trying to have the organs of an 18-year-old.
Wait, I heard something about blood transfusions.
Yeah, that's one of the more controversial parts of Project Blueprint. He's gotten multiple blood plasma transfusions.
Oh, really?
Including one from his teenage son.
What the fuck? He's injecting himself with his kid's blood. Okay, now I'm thinking this guy might actually be a vampire.
It's definitely out there.
Out there.
The FDA even issued a warning against these kinds of transfusions,
Yeah.
saying there's no scientific evidence to support their effectiveness, and they could be dangerous.
So the government thinks he's nuts, but he's still doing it. This guy doesn't give a shit what anyone thinks.
It seems that way.
Huh.
He's committed to pushing the boundaries, even if it means going against mainstream science.
Right.
But that raises the question, is he a visionary genius or just a rich dude with a death wish?
All right, before we get too deep into this guy's quest for immortality, let's rewind a bit.
Okay.
Most people know him from Braintree and Venmo. Those are pretty mainstream now.
But back in the day, they were cutting edge, right?
Absolutely. Braintree was a pioneer in online payment processing.
Okay.
Back in the early 2010s, they were processing billions of dollars in transactions annually, which is why PayPal snatched them up for a cool $800 million.
Damn, that's some serious cash.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder this guy can afford to experiment on himself with crazy blood transfusions and brain-reading helmets.
The money definitely helps, but it's more than that. Braintree was one of the first companies to really embrace mobile payments, which, as you know, is how everyone pays for shit these days.
Right.
They also bought Venmo back in 2012 for a measly $26.2 million, which turned out to be a genius move.
So he's not just some lucky tech bro who struck gold. This guy's got a real knack for spotting trends and disrupting industries. But why walk away from all that success to chase some crazy immortality dream?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We'll dig into that more later. All right, so we've established that Bryan Johnson is this tech mogul turned biohacking fanatic.
Yeah.
But what the hell is dreading this guy? Why not just chill on a private island and count his millions?
Right. Like, why bother with all the weird diets and blood transfusions?
Yeah.
What's the fucking end game here?
To understand that, we got to dig into Johnson's philosophy. He's written a couple of books
Oh, really?
where he lays out his blueprint for an epic life, which he calls Code 7.
Code 7. Sounds like some secret society bullshit.
Yeah, kinda.
What's the gist of it?
Basically, he believes that humans are capable of way more than we've achieved.
Okay.
He sees aging and disease as these annoying obstacles in our way, and he thinks technology is the key to overcoming them.
So he wants to transcend our limitations, become superhuman. Is this guy for real?
He's dead serious about it. He talks about self-actualization and unlocking human potential.
Oh, God.
You know, all that Tony Robbins-y type stuff, but with a sci-fi twist.
It's like he's trying to play God, hack the system, and cheat death. Kind of ballsy, I guess.
It's definitely a bold vision, but it also raises a shit ton of ethical questions.
Like what?
Like, if we can extend life indefinitely, who gets to live forever? And what about the impact on the planet if everyone is living for centuries?
Yeah, it's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
Overpopulation, resource depletion. The world would be a pretty fucked up place if no one ever died.
Exactly. And what about the social and economic consequences?
Right.
Would we end up with an even bigger gap between the haves and have-nots, with the wealthy elite living forever while everyone else struggles to survive?
It's like a dystopian sci-fi movie waiting to happen.
Totally.
But hey, maybe Johnson has thought about all this stuff. Maybe he's got a plan.
Well, in his writings, he talks about creating a more equitable and sustainable future, but it's all pretty vague.
Uh-huh.
It's hard to say how his ideas would actually play out in the real world.
Okay, so we've got this guy who made a fortune in tech, then decided to dedicate his life to conquering death and unlocking human potential. He's got a grand vision.
Grand vision.
But it's not clear how realistic or ethical it actually is.
Yeah.
What about this kernel thing? Is it just about building cool brain-reading helmets, or is there something more to it?
It's definitely not just about the helmets.
What is it about, then?
It's about understanding how the brain works at a fundamental level. If you want to extend life, you need to understand what causes aging in the first place.
Okay.
And a lot of that comes down to the brain.
So he's trying to figure out how to keep our brains young. I'm all for that. My brain feels fried after a weekend bender.
Exactly. By studying brain activity, Kernel hopes to identify biomarkers of aging and develop interventions that can slow or even reverse the process. It's like preventative maintenance for your brain.
Biomarkers, interventions. Hold up. You're losing me with all the sciencey jargon. Break it down for us dummies.
All right, think of it this way. Biomarkers are like these little signals in your body that can tell you about your health.
Okay.
Like, high cholesterol is a biomarker for heart disease.
Okay.
Kernel is looking for biomarkers in the brain that indicate aging. Once they identify those biomarkers, they can develop interventions, basically treatments or therapies that target those biomarkers and potentially slow down aging.
So it's like finding a way to hack your brain's aging process. That's some next level shit.
It is pretty mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing.
And if Kernel is successful, it could have huge implications, not just for extending lifespan, but also for treating neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
All right, so even if the whole immortality thing is a long shot, there's still a lot of potential good that could come out of this research.
Yeah.
Like maybe I can finally remember where to put my damn keys.
Absolutely. Johnson's work, for all its controversy, is pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible. It's forcing us to ask ourselves some big questions about the future of humanity and the limits of our own biology. But what about the man himself?
Yeah.
What's he actually like?
Yeah, this guy seems intense. Is he some kind of robot who never sleeps or eats a cheeseburger? Fill us in.
Well, from everything I've read, he's incredibly driven and disciplined, almost to the point of obsession. He tracks every single aspect of his life, from his sleep patterns to his nutrient intake, and he's constantly experimenting on himself. He's the ultimate self-quantifier.
Sounds kind of exhausting, honestly. Like, who wants to live like that, even if you are immortal?
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone, but it seems to work for him. He claims to be in the best shape of his life, both physically and mentally, and he's convinced that his approach is the key to unlocking human potential. He even claims to have reversed his biological age by a few years.
Reversed his biological age? Come on, is that even possible?
He says it is. He's got all these tests and biomarkers to back it up,
Okay.
but it's hard to verify those claims, and even if he has made some progress, it's still a long way from actually achieving immortality.
So we're back to wait and see.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure. This guy is not afraid to challenge the status quo and push the limits of what's possible. Whether you admire him or think he's a bit crazy, you gotta admit he's shaking things up.
No doubt about it. Bryan Johnson is a force to be reckoned with, and his story is far from over. He's a walking contradiction, a tech mogul who's also a biohacking guinea pig, a ruthless businessman who claims to want to save humanity. It's fascinating and a little bit terrifying all at the same time.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about Johnson's crazy quest for immortality, his mind-boggling company kernel, and the ethical dilemmas his work raises. But there's still one big question we haven't answered. Is this guy actually onto something?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one we'll try to answer in the next part. Stay tuned.
All right, motherfuckers, we're back for the final round of our deep dive into the world of Bryan Johnson, the tech CEO who's trying to hack his way into immortality.
We've explored his journey from Braintree to Kernel, his insane project blueprint, and all the ethical quandaries his work throws up.
We've talked about his blood transfusions, his brain-reading helmets, and his quest to unlock human potential. Now let's cut to the chase. Is this guy a genius, a lunatic, or just a bored billionaire with a god complex?
It's tough to put him in a neat little box. He's this strange mix of Silicon Valley, visionary, hardcore biohacker, and new age guru.
He's definitely not your average tech bro. Most of those guys are happy just launching the next dating app or whatever.
Yeah.
This dude's trying to re-engineer the human experience.
Yeah, that's what makes him so fascinating. He's forcing us to confront some really big questions about what it means to be human, what limits we're willing to break, and what the future might hold.
So is he actually onto something? Could this dude actually pull off the whole immortality thing?
It's impossible to say for sure. The science is still very much in its early stages. But even if he doesn't achieve literal immortality, his work could have a massive impact on how we treat diseases, enhance our capabilities, and understand the human brain.
I mean, even if he could just help me remember where I parked my car, that's a win in my book.
Yeah. Right. But beyond the practical applications, there's something deeply philosophical about what Johnson's trying to do. He's challenging the very notion of aging as an inevitable decline, suggesting that we might have more control over our biological destinies than we ever thought possible.
It's like he's saying, fuck you, Father Time. I'm not going down without a fight.
Exactly. And that message resonates with a lot of people. We're living in an age where technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate, and there's a growing sense that maybe, just maybe, we can overcome some of the limitations that have defined human existence for centuries.
It's both exciting and terrifying, right? Like, who knows what the world will look like if people start living for 200 years?
Yeah.
Will we solve all our problems or just create a whole bunch of new ones?
That's the big question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer, but the point is Bryan Johnson is making us think about these questions whether we like it or not.
He's definitely a disruptor, that's for sure. So what's the final verdict on this guy? Hero, villain, or just a really weird dude with a lot of money?
I don't think there's a single answer. He's a complex figure who defies easy categorization. But one thing's for sure. He's pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and his story is far from over.
Well, there you have it, you magnificent bastards. The tale of Bryan Johnson, the tech CEO turned biohacking renegade. He's a walking paradox, a futurist with one foot in the past, a data-obsessed control freak who's also a passionate advocate for human potential. Whether he succeeds or fails in his quest for immortality, he's already made a mark on the world, forcing us to confront the limits of our biology and the possibilities of the future. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're going to go try to find some of that youth serum he's been working on. Until next time, keep on diving and don't be afraid to push your own limits.